Okay, so our goal here is to write the equation of lines that are parallel or perpendicular to lines that we already have the equation of. A little background information that we need to know, and something that we talked about a couple weeks ago, is that parallel lines have the same slope and perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals, meaning that the slope flips upside down and the sign is different. Okay, so let me show you a few examples here of what I mean. As far as parallel is concerned, the slopes are the same. So if I had a slope of -9 for one of my lines, the line that was parallel to that one, or one of the lines parallel to that one, would also have a slope of -9. Okay, parallel lines have the same slope, but perpendicular lines, being that their slopes are opposite reciprocals, it's a little bit more complicated. It's not really any big deal, but a little more complicated in how we have to figure out the slope. So for instance, let's say we had that same slope of -9. Well, we would have to remember that -9 as a fraction has a 1 underneath it, and so the opposite reciprocal would be a positive, because if it's negative we have to change it to a positive. That's opposite, and then reciprocal means we flip it upside down, which means it would be 1/9. Let's look at another example here. Let's say we had the slope 3/7. Well, the opposite reciprocal here would be negative. We have to change it to the opposite sign, 7/3. So keep in mind that when our lines are perpendicular, that the slope is the opposite reciprocal, and when they are parallel, they are the same slope. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a few problems here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's do one problem where we are looking for the equation of a line that is parallel, and then maybe we'll do 2 parallel and 2 perpendicular. How about that? So the first one, this is what's going to happen. The first thing I see here is that our line is parallel to the line that we're given. So I see that word, I want to key in on that. So what we're looking for here, and I'll draw you a little picture. This isn't necessary when you're solving the problem, but I want to set up what we're actually doing here. So excuse me. What you see is we have this equation, y equals -x plus 4, and if I wanted to graph that, I'd put a dot at the y-intercept, which is 4, and my slope is -1, meaning that my line is going downhill. So that might look something like that right there. Okay, it's a real quick, dirty graph to show you what it might look like. Now our line goes through the point 5,8, and if you found 5,8, well, you'd go over 5, and then you'd go up. Well, there'd be 4, because remember that dot's at 4, or y-intercept. We'd go up 4, and then we'd have to go up 4 more to get to 8. So the line we're looking for is actually this line that goes through this point right there, 5,8, but is parallel, which means it never touches this green line. Okay, so we're looking for the equation of this pink line right here. Now, what do we know about them? Well, we know that they have different y-intercepts, and but we do know that they're the same slope because the lines are parallel. So let's go ahead and solve this problem. So the first thing I do is I find my slope. I look right here in front of that x, and I know that my slope is the same as that line that we're given, and so our slope is -1. I'm just going to circle that so that I remember that's important to me, and I want to use that later. The next thing I do is write y equals mx plus b, which is something that's very similar when we do all of these equation writing problems. And I look at my point. I label it x and y, and then I substitute those numbers in. So y is 8. The slope is -1. We just got that from this equation right here. The x is 5. That's from our ordered pair. And then we're looking for the y-intercept of this pink line. That's what we're trying to find. So let's go ahead and simplify what we have. We have 8 equals -5 plus b. And then we can add 5 to both sides, and we'll get 13 is equal to b. And I'll circle that because that's the other important piece of information that we need. So the equation of our line is y equals, going to look at my slope, -1, the letter x always goes behind the slope, and then plus 13. So basically what I'm showing you here is that the equation of this pink line is y equals -1x plus 13, meaning that up here where this line eventually hits the y-axis, it's up here at 13, whereas our other line hit at 4 down here. Okay? But they both have the same slope because they're parallel. So this is our answer right here. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and do another problem. We'll do it without the graph and all that stuff because that might be confusing you. So here's basically, let's do this bare bones. This is what you need to know. Our line is parallel, which means that's our slope, exactly the same. So I'm going to write m equals 5/2. Once I use this equation, I'm done with it. I don't need it anymore, so I'll cross it out. I write y equals mx plus b, and I fill in my point. 0 for y, slope is 5/2, x is -2, b's hanging out. We're trying to figure that out. Alright? Okay, so from here, we use red. These 2's, we know 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we can make that a 1. This is a -1 right there. Okay, so we know that this is a -1 because that was originally a -2. So we have, let's use blue again. 0 is equal to -5. 5 times -1 is -5. Plus b. And then I'll finish up by adding 5. Excuse me. To get 5 is equal to b. Circle it. I should have circled my slope up here. I like to do that. I forgot. So I'll write my equation, y equals 5/2, throw an x behind it, and add 5 at the end because that's what we figured out b was. Alright? So our equation that we got for our answer, this is our answer, has the same slope as that other line. It has a different y-intercept though. And the reason it has the same slope is because they are parallel lines. Alright, let's do 2 other examples here. Clear that. Hopefully clear that. Alright, this time, keyword, perpendicular. So this time we look at our slope. And our slope that we're going to use has to be flipped 2/3. This slope is negative, so our slope is positive. And I don't know why my pen isn't working, but there we go. Alright, so from here, if you want, you can cross out this equation. I no longer need it. Alright, I used it for its slope, and now I don't need it anymore. I threw it away. Y equals mx plus b. Plug in my point. -5 is y. Slope we just figured out using the equation we were given. Okay. And I see that my 3's, this is going to drive me nuts. This isn't working. Alright, these 3's cancel each other out, and we're left with -1. So, so we have -5 equals -2 plus b. And if we add 2 to both sides, we get -3 is equal to b. So we have both things we need, slope, y-intercept. We'll write the equation in pink because it looks different. So y equals 2/3, that's our slope. X minus 3 is our equation. Okay, the only difference between this and the other 2 problems was that we had to flip our slope and change the sign. Alright, we're going to look at one more problem. We're not actually going to do the whole thing. I just want to show it to you. And let's see if we can pick out the slope. So we see the word perpendicular. So I key in on this slope right here. I'll give you a second. Guess what our slope that we would use would be. Alright, time's up. It would be -3. We flip the slope upside down and change the sign. And then from here you plug in your point, get a y-intercept, and write your equation. Okay, so remember, two things we need to know. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. You can think of that as being flipped upside down and change the sign.